Ruben Amorim sacked from Manchester United, and the first thing I have to say on that is Alhamdulillah. Yes, I'm happy about this decision. Yes, if you watched my last match reaction after the Leeds game, you will see that I called for this. And if you watch that, you know what I want to happen next, what I think is best for us, what I think the solution is. But we will get to that later on in this video too. But as much as I'm happy about this decision and I think it was needed and I think enough is enough, it isn't as simple as it seems. This is more complex. It's not just a case of the results were bad. This is the worst Man United team we've seen, so he needed to be sacked. There's a lot more to unpack, and a lot of it has to do with Ineos and those directors. We will get to them. We will get to them. But I want to actually start off by touching on the positives that Amorim had on this football club. There isn't much, but there is a couple. There is some. And I want to start by saying I do feel like he installed some level of standards back into the club. Now, I feel like under Ole, as Ronaldo pronounces it, under Ole, I feel like he introduced the pride to play for Manchester United back into the squad. Then Ten Hag, I feel like took it away, and I do feel like Amorim did bring that back relatively. In the case of you can't just play for this team, you have to earn your spot. It doesn't matter what you're earning, it doesn't matter what you think you've got going on, it doesn't matter how important you think you are to the team. You might not play if you haven't earned it. And I do feel like he really installed that. And at the end of the day, when managers take a stand, they always need a case study or case studies. And those case studies in this regard were the Sanchos of the world, the Rashfords, the Garnachos. Now, Rashford, I think his one was a bit. I didn't want Marcus to go. Marcus, everyone knows that's my guy, bro. Everyone knows that's my guy. I used to have his 39 jersey. I ended up losing it. But his 39 jersey, when he first played for the club, I had that jersey. Marcus is really my guy. I'm so happy he's doing well at Barcelona. But as much as my love story with Marcus Rashford, deep down, I do want it to continue. Deep down, I do want him to come back to the club after his loan finishes at Barca and see if we can get this marriage back together. But I was talking with a friend and they did make me realize that, you know what, maybe it's best for all parties if we just call it a day, especially the way Marcus actually facilitated his move out of Old Trafford. It was quite damning. But removing those bad apples, Garnacho, I did think was hard done by as well. But again, with the leaks and with this and with the attitude and blah de blah, I do think it was a positional issue for him as well. He got rid of him, but then Sancho, finally his contract is about to run out and he is going to be off the books at the end of the season. Thank God. Um, and that's more of a financial thing than anything because Sancho is a good player, but it just didn't work out. But thankfully, Amorim actually overhauled the squad quite a bit in terms of getting players out. So, there's a lot more names that have been removed out the club that they weren't bad guys, but their time was just up over the time period from Ten Hag's squad. If you look at Ten Hag's squad and Amorim's squad, they're two completely different squads, and I did like that. Secondly, he did have to deal with Man United at a crazy time financially. So I would say that considering the financial burdens that he's had, obviously the last window he had some money to spare, some money to spend, but we'd be lying if we'd say this isn't the time in Man United, well, in my lifetime, that we have been the most strict in terms of financial spending. So Amorim's had to deal with that type of thing while still trying his best to improve the squad. And I do think In fact, I'll get onto that later when I talk about why I feel like Amrin may feel like he is hard done by. He has also improved the physicality and fitness of this squad. I do believe that. I know we've got quite a few injuries now, but we players we do have less injuries in comparison to when you zoom out basically. And when you look at guys like, again, I know Mount is injured now, but when you look at guys like Shaw especially, and Mount, they've had less injuries, they've had more consistency in the team. He won't play a player if they're relatively injured. He won't play them. He just won't do it. And I do like that. It's protecting the squad, protecting things long term. Another thing that he did well is improve the game of Bruno Fernandes. And what I mean by that is Bruno under Ruben Amorim is definitely a more disciplined Bruno Fernandes. He's not running around like a headless chicken as much anymore. And I do think that's down to Ruben Amorim. So I can't shout him out for that. Hopefully with the next manager now, Bruno still takes those things on that Amorim taught him moving forwards. And the last thing I'd say is the introduction of Aiden Heaven. And granted, whoever brought in Aiden Heaven, Heaven would probably still be doing what he's doing and have the potential that he has. But I have to give credit to Amram because he was the one that did it. So those are the positives. But I would say, and I will touch on it a bit later, that Bruno and Heaven, Mount too. Sure, it's just about his less injuries, but they're really the only people that have improved. But we will get onto that now because we're gonna get onto the negatives now. The negatives and the list of negatives is dark. It's dark. It's dark. It's dark. It's very, very dark. Cool. Let's just run through it. Last season, and by the way, because he came in the middle of the season, and you'll see this in my letter to Amarin right at the beginning of the season. I said when he came in last season that I will give him a bye for the season because he was dealing with Man United at a time that no managers had to deal with them at, where we're not spending as much and stuff like that. And in January, he only got Patrick Dorgu, so he didn't really have the time. Sorry, he didn't really have the time to, buy players to suit his system. And he just had to work with what he had. Irrespective of that, the facts still remain. 15th position in the league last season, 4 points off Spurs, who finished in 17th. And the next one is the first one where I said, I know I'm giving you a bye for this season, Ruben Amorim, but this was your first huge strike for me, which was losing that Europa League final to Tottenham Hotspur. And it wasn't just about the management of it in the game, not bringing on Garnacho, not starting Garnacho, bringing him on at 70 minutes, not playing Kobe Mainu, bringing him on at 90 minutes. It wasn't just about those things. These are the guys that, against Lyon and previous ties that did so well. But it was more about in the lead up, in the press conferences to that final, his attitude towards this game. He was just continuously talking about, yeah, but we only want to win this because of Champions League qualification. That's what it means to us. Rather than like looking down upon the actual winning of the trophy. He never spoke. I don't think he rarely spoke about that. Maybe he did, but I remember him talking specifically about we want this trophy for CL qualification. Of course we do. Of course we do. Win the trophy. Get the success, get the victory. That's a byproduct. And I almost felt like and I predicted that we were going to lose that final because the attitude towards it just seemed like Tottenham want to win this way more than us. Tottenham ain't thinking about CL qualification. They're just thinking about lifting that trophy. And I believe if we did the same, we would have won that game. But we didn't. And that comes down from the manager down to the players. Down to the players. I don't know if his team talk or whatever, or his advice to the players is about winning this trophy or telling them, let's look forward to the Champions League next season. Bros, why are you getting ahead of yourself? Just win the trophy, bro. So I didn't like that. Now we get onto the main thing, and I do think this is one of the continuous nails that he was pushing in his coffin over and over again in his tenure. The stubbornness with this formation, the three at the back formation. The stubbornness was too much. It wasn't working. It wasn't working. And even with it not working, you know that because you're putting, what do they call it? You're putting square or circle, what is it? Square pegs in round holes or vice versa, whatever it is. And that's what he was doing. So many of our players were not playing in their position. They weren't. Amad Diallo not playing in his position. Mazraoui not playing in his position. Luke Shaw not playing in his position. Bruno Fernandes not playing in his position. Casemiro playing in his position, but he needs two. He needs to be in a three, not a two. So not playing in his position. Even you can say Mbermo in a RAM. He's right wing or striker, not playing in his position. So many players not playing in their position in the first team. Like, why would you just not adapt momentarily? Of course, he shot himself in the foot because right at the beginning of the tenure, he said, I'll never change. I'll never change. This is all I know. This is all I know. Bro, part of being a great manager, don't forget, Sporting was just your beginning. Part of being a huge success as a manager, you have to adapt. You have to learn. Maybe three at the back could have been your thing at Sporting. You come to Man United and say, yeah, I learned four at the back at Man United. Four at the back worked so well for me at Man United. Now Ruben Amorim's got two systems he can use, but he was too stubborn to think about, can I evolve? Can I learn more? Can I create another pathway for my players to do well? He was too stubborn. And that, I believe, leading up to the final press conference, was the continuous nails he was putting into his coffin. Moving on, I just spoke about the three players I feel like Mount, Bruno Fernandes, and Heaven, who he improved. No one else improved. The players at the squad at Man United, none of them improved. Maybe you can say De Ligt a little bit before his injury, but none of them improved. Everyone was just stagnant. And yeah, like I'm also not including Casemiro because I've been known Casemiro can do this. Casemiro's best moment was in that first season against Ten Hag, and him playing well this season. I don't know if it's an improvement. You know what I'm trying to say? So that's another thing. Now we get onto the percentage win rates for managers post Fergie. So the highest of them all is Mourinho with 53%. Now Ten Hag, Solskjaer, Van Gaal were all around the 51, 52% mark. Then we've got Moise with 50%, and then Ranić with 41%. Ruben Amorim had a percentage win of 31%, 10% lower than Ralph Ranić. The open heart surgery season. Deep that, guys. Deep that. How bad were we in that Ralph Ranić season? And he was 10% less in terms of the winning rate. It's really, really horrific. More stats for you guys. Since his appointment in the Premier League, Ruben Amorim has had Ruben Amorim has had 19 Premier League losses. The only manager that's had more losses than Ruben Amorim in his time in the Premier League is Ange Postecoglou with 21 losses. Yes, I know Ange got sacked last season, so it gives Ruben Amorim a bit more time to get some more losses. But I need you guys to realize what I'm saying. Ange Postecoglou is the only manager to have been sacked. Sorry, to have lost more Premier League games than Ruben Amorim in his time. And what you need to realize about that is all the other managers that have been sacked in the Premier League In Ruben Amorim's time, all these relegation clubs, every single club that has sacked a manager has not lost more games than Ruben Amorim. That's what you need to take from that. And the guy that lost more than him has been, so everyone around him has been sacked apart from him. Obviously, now he's joined that club. So that's another thing. And now we must get on to just the huge losses, the huge, abysmal, despicable results, some of which that are sack worthy in themselves. So we had the Europa League final versus Spurs, absolute joke. But now we get to, that's the European final, cool. Grimsby, getting knocked out by Grimsby in the Carabao Cup is an abomination. Then we've got losing to Everton with 10 men. Everton had 10 men from like what, the 10th minute? So for nearly 80 minutes, Everton booed us off the park with a man less. That is one of the worst losses, I believe, in this time. Honestly, horrific. And then I will say the Wolves draw recently. Wolves were they still are the worst Premier League club of all time statistically. Yes, I know they got a win finally, but when they played us, they were 11 losses on the bounce. It's absolutely despicable eight, to field eight defensive-minded players in that second half when you want to go for a winner versus Wolverhampton Wanderers, the worst Premier League team of all time. It goes down for me as one of the biggest losses in this tenure. So all of these things, and listen, I think back to other times under Ten Hag, the 7-0 loss to Liverpool, that was also sack worthy. Some of these games, Grimsby, Everton, Wolves, these games, they are sack worthy. Just those games alone, obviously in context with everything going on, when those losses happened, I wouldn't be surprised if a manager gets the sack at a club like Man United after each and every single one of them. That's the truth. That is the truth. And now we have to talk about his tactics in game, his substitutions. And like I said about, you know, fielding such defensive-minded players when you're allegedly trying to go for a win. His tactics in game, his substitutions, more often than not, would be so poor. And we go back to the Europa League final. Garnacho at 70, Kobe at 90. Like it's really, really bad. All he's doing is pacing up and down that field. I've seen him at Old Trafford. Just pacing up and down, pacing up and down. Bruh, do something. Do something. And this tactic thing he does of I must change my centre back in a game. Why, bro? He always does it. I don't understand it. So many tactics in game. Amorim just seemed like he really didn't have a clue. So listen, long list of negatives there, long list of negatives, and it's those negatives like you can't. The writing's on the wall. You cannot ignore it. You can't ignore it. Oh, it's sack worthy. He should have been sacked. That's the truth. He should have been sacked, but Ineos were protecting him. Ineos were protecting him. But now, this leads me well onto Ineos. These jokers. Because Amorim's a joke, but Ineos are worse. Ineos have no idea what they are doing. Like, it's very clear to see. I'm so upset we didn't get the Arabs, man. Remember when we're talking about the takeover, who's gonna be the new owners and this and that? Who's gonna make it was either Jim Ratcliffe or the Arabs. Ah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I wish we got the Arabs. I wish we got the Arabs, man, because Ineos, they do not have a Scooby. And let me tell you why. Because Ten Hag's tenure after the FA Cup final, we should have parted ways with Ten Hag. I said it to all my mates. Win or lose this game, let's part ways with Ten Hag because it's too much. We won the game. Ten Hag had his chest out after having his chest in before the game. He started puffing his chest out after the game, the wasteland. And they decided to stick with him. And then not long into choosing to stick with him when you could have parted ways, you sack him. After buying more players for him, by the way, more players for his system. After investing more in Ten Hag in the summer, by October, what it was, October, November, you sack him. So that's the first thing of Ineos. You don't know what you're doing at all. And Ben, you hire Amorim, you hire Ruben Amorim, knowing his system does not fit the current squad. You knew that. You knew you bought all these players for Ten Hag. And you know that for this three at the back system, which Amorim would have laid out for you in the interview, in the discussions, you know these players do not fit this system. So you know you're going to have to invest heavily. You know you're going to have to be patient in, changing the whole squad again for the new manager. For the new manager. But you hire him anyway. You hire him anyway. Then when we have an abysmal start under Ruben Amorim, Jim Ratcliffe comes out to protect him and say, "This is my manager for 3 years." Ratcliffe said that. Ratcliffe said that. It's on YouTube. It's there. The interview with Gary Neville. And it took all of it didn't take losing the Europa League final. It didn't take finishing 15th in the Premier League. I've supported Manchester United for 23, 24 years of my life. Never in my life did I ever think I would see Manchester United 15th place. 15th. It didn't take that for them to sack him. And by the way, I said first season, let's give him a bye. So that was my prerogative anyway. I wanted to give him the chance of the next season. However, I'm talking if you're the owners. 15th. That it didn't take 15th to sack him. It didn't take losing the Europa League final to Spurs to sack him. It didn't take losing to Grimsby Town, getting knocked out by Grimsby Town in a cup competition to sack him. It didn't take losing to 10-man Everton for 80 minutes to sack him. It didn't even take losing points to Wolves to sack him. It took him to call you out in the press conference to say, are they doing their job? Because I'm trying to do mine. I need them to do their job so I can do mine. It took him to call you out to sack him. So is this now just toxic ego stuff that we're talking about? And that's why you sacked him? Because he called you out? If he was, just treading on ice and not saying anything about you guys and, always saying nice things about you guys, would he have got the sack? And that's the scary part. The scary part that you guys have made this decision, it seems that way, off emotion about something personal rather than the actual football. Ineos, man, I haven't got a clue. Then we talk about Dan Ashworth. You hire Dan Ashworth as one of the directors. He wanted Southgate, which I also don't want, but he wanted Southgate. He wasn't on board with Amorim. So you sacked him, gave him a massive payout. You gave him a massive payout for not being on board with Amorim. And then however many months later, like a year later, less than a year or whatever it is, you sacked the guy that you sacked him for not agreeing with. What are we doing here? What are we doing here, Ineos? It's an absolute joke. Absolute joke. Ineos, they're worse than Amorim. Like, the problems aren't over. The problems aren't over. I really hope they can really sit down and rectify this and try and, make better decisions next time. But I just don't trust these guys, man. I don't trust these Wilcoxes, the Baradas, the Ratcliffes. I don't trust these guys, man. They ain't got a clue. They haven't got a clue. Now, this is why I do feel like Amorim is hard done by. irrespective of I do feel like it's the right decision. I think both things can be true because he didn't even get one full season in the job. And when you zoom out, he was improving. 15th last season, but again, when people say this again, like it doesn't sit right with me because we should have never been there. But we are now sitting in fifth, joint fifth, I believe, in Champions League European places. Um, Even when you look at Amorim's Premier League record, he was improving. His first 10 Premier League games, he had 6 losses. In his last 10 Premier League games, he had 2 losses. So you can see improvement. And who's to say that we saw this season out? Maybe he gets Champions League football or Europa League football, hopefully Champions League, and maybe he's able to really buy some players. Really, in the midfield is what we're talking about, and the wing backs. I think those are the positions, that four, the wing backs and the midfield two, reinforcements in those positions, because I think the full strength squad defensively is decent and attacking wise, we should be decent now, bar the striker issue. But who's to say that if we weren't a bit more patient, that maybe things could have improved even further? We'll never know now. But again, certain things do come with consequences, and I do think these consequences are justified. Clearly, Ineos have been making promises that they didn't keep. You could see that in the Leeds game. And now that makes me question Sesko, because Sesko was the reason we lost that Leeds game, because he was missing sitters or missing great chances that he should put away. But again, if you go watch my video on Sesko, you know I don't think this is Sesko's fault. So go check that video out to see why I don't think it's Sesko's fault. But was that a club signing or was it an Amorim signing? Because it felt like Sesko's missed the chances, that's lost the game, and now he's saying they need to do their job better. So he wanted Gyökeres, we know that. So did he want Sesko, or did the club say, listen, we're going to get Sesko, we think he's got huge potential, we want you to work with him, be positive about him. So that's something interesting. You know, in his first window, he didn't have much to play with. He just got Dorgu as well. But Ineos have also said that they're not signing anyone this January. So I don't know, man. I don't know. So listen, these are all the reasons why I think Amorim can feel hard done by, and I'm sure he's using these reasons to cope and convince himself that, you know, if he was given more time, if he was given, you know, I don't know, more support, even though I think he had ample support, he will probably be using these reasons to cope with what has happened. But again, Amarim, you coming out in that press conference saying everything you said, you're not in no position to do that. I don't know who you think you are. You don't have any credit in the bank to do that, bruh. So the fact that you were brave enough to do that, I can only feel like the writing was on the wall and he knew he was going to be sacked. So he just wanted to leave with a little bit of a mic drop moment, because there's no way you talk about the owners like that. There's no way. It's impossible if you don't know that things are already up in the air, things aren't going to go well. So that's what I believe. And yeah, I do, taking all that into account, again, like I said, we have to look at the scales and we have to look at the pros and the cons. And I do think the cons for Amorim heavily outweigh the pros. Now, listen, I'm going to end this video talking about who's next, guys. Who is next for Manchester United? We've run through so many managers. Who is next? And these are the guys on the list. I'm going to run through them quickly. Let me know if there's anyone I've missed out. But these are the guys on the list, and I will quickly tell you what I think about them. Maresca, obviously a good manager, done well at Leicester City, just been relieved of his duties or walked away from Chelsea. Do I want him? No, I don't. Maybe part of that is I just don't want Chelsea's manager that they've just got rid of. Glasner, great manager, done amazing things with Crystal Palace. Do I want him? No, I do not want to see a three at the back again. And even if he says that he will adapt to a four at the back, I don't want him. I don't want him. I just want a guy that plays four at the back. So Glasner, no. Iraola, very similar, doing well at Bournemouth, but I'm a big advocate for I need someone that has a CV of winning. I don't know if Iraola does before Bournemouth. Please let me know in the comments if he has. But Glasner, Maresca, these guys have one thing, so they would be ahead of Iraola for me. Um, and I'm saying no to them. So no to Iraola. Eddie Howe, Newcastle, done amazing things. He's someone I wouldn't be mad at. He's someone I wouldn't be mad at. I do think he's been waiting and he does need an opportunity at a higher level job than Newcastle. So maybe I don't mind Eddie Howe. Unai Emery, amazing manager, won so much, top quality manager, a winner, at Villarreal, at Sevilla. He hasn't won anything at Aston Villa yet, but he's doing great things at Aston Villa. Would I want Emery? I actually wouldn't. The reason being is because even though I think he was hard done by Arsenal, he did win at Arsenal as well. He won the FA Cup, I believe. Um, but he had the PSG job. It didn't work out, and I'm starting to think maybe Emery is the top of the crop of the second tier of managers, and that's not someone I want. Southgate, no, please, no. Xavi, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it in such a tough time for Barcelona in that La Liga campaign. He won it. He won the La Liga in such a the most financially difficult time for Barcelona. And if you watch Jordi Cruyff's interview on the Overlap, he talks about this because he was the director at the time with Xavi for one or 2 years. So he saw it and he spoke about how Xavi was dealing with a madness at Barcelona. And we all know it with the silly decisions, likewise to us, that they were making. But he won the league there and he did very well. And we know what type of football Xavi's going to play. He's going to play forward thinking, four at the back, and progressive, pretty, beautiful attacking football. We know Xavi's going to do that. So I wouldn't mind Xavi. De Zerbi, great manager, way too much of a maverick for me. Doing great things at Marseille at the moment, but I do think maybe that's his level and too much of a maverick. Zinedine Zidane, he's not coming into this mess. That's a luxury guy. He's not doing this. So forget about Zidane. Then you have the Carricks, the Fletchers, the Allies. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Fletcher is likely to be the interim manager for the Burnley game. Carrick, he did well at Middlesbrough, but I was looking for Carrick to get Middlesbrough promoted just so I could see how he would do with Middlesbrough in the Premier League. So I think I'd rather see Carrick get a mid-table Premier League job before I see whether he's ready for this. Fletcher, no experience. I wouldn't want Fletcher to be permanent. Um, Ole, actually, let me get back. I'll talk about Ole last. The last name on my list is Luis Enrique. Listen, people might say this is far fetched, but Man United is one of, if not the biggest managing football in the world. Managing job in the world. So Luis Enrique has won it all at PSG. He won the six-tuple. He won everything. So I think maybe you could convince him to do a new challenge. I think maybe you could. You know what I'm trying to say? He did so well at getting that Spain team back into shape before they eventually went and won the Euros. Because he was the manager when they got to the semi-finals of the World Cup, and that was a Spain team no one expected to get there. Such an inexperienced Spain team. Luis Enrique did that. Then you see the the rebuilding job that he's done at PSG in terms of the players that he's brought, the signings that he's made. They were all hits. They were all hits. I can't really go through them from my mind right now, but the ones off the top of my head, Pacho, Nuno Mendes, João Neves, Vitinha, uh, Kvaratskhelia, all of these guys, they were all hits. straight into the first team. So shout out Luis Enrique. I think he's one of the best managers in the world, and I would love if maybe we could prize him from PSG. Now, how do we make that happen, guys? I'll tell you. And we get back to Ole, and that is that. And I spoke about this. My reaction to the Leeds game, I said, get Amorim out, call it a day with Amorim, get Ole in on an interim basis, not permanent. Don't listen to Rio. Don't make it permanent, irrespective of how well he does. Get him in on interim, get that feel good factor back. 4-2-3-1 is his formation. Get the players, Kobe, all of these guys playing in their position, get us back stable. And whilst we've got Ole as the interim manager, whilst we have that, work on trying to convince a brother like Luis Enrique to come to Manchester United in the summer. That's my take, guys. That's my take. I do want Ole to come as the interim manager after the Burnley game. I really, really do. I really, really do. I think he will give us exactly what we need for this time. And I do think he will do well. I think he'll be able to maybe get us Champions League football as well as he proved, as he's shown in his time. He finished what? Third, second, and then that's when he got sacked in the season after. So, oh, actually, no, there was one more. There was one more, like fourth, third, second. I don't know. But the point is, all they've finished in Champions League places consistently or consecutively. So get all in and let's work on Luis Enrique in the summer. That's my solution. That's my take, guys. I've been talking for ages. This is such a long video, but so much to unpack. What do you guys think, man? Are you happy about Ruben Amorim's dismissal or not? Do you think he should have stayed? Do you think it was his time? And who do you want to be the next Manchester United manager? Let me know in the comments. Like, comment, share, subscribe, my people, man. I'm out. I'll see you on the next one after the Burnley game. Peace.